So welcome to everyone to this session, which is an information session about the MPhil in Digital Humanities. And my name's Anne Alexander. I teach on the MPhil in Digital Humanities. I teach one of the modules. I also am Director of Learning at CDH, and I'm a Senior Research Associate. And we're going to be going through some of the information about the MPhil programme. I'm going to go around and ask the other colleagues here on the call to introduce themselves, and then we'll have a short presentation from Hugo Leal. At any point, and please feel free to get on with this if you've got questions that you want answered, please use the Q&A function to start writing questions that you'd like us to address in the Q&A part of this session. Just to be clear, we're recording the session so that we can post a recording of some of the information parts on the website afterwards, but we won't obviously be identifying any questions or questioners that are in the recording. You do have the option to ask questions anonymously in the Q&A function. And of course, you can always follow up with us afterwards on email. So I'm going to hand over to do quick introductions first. Jonathan.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jonathan. I'm the research software engineer on the MPhil. So my job is to support the students with the technical parts of their research. And we do have students from a variety of backgrounds. So don't be put off from applying if you think you don't have the technical background, because firstly, there's no requirement. And secondly, I'm here to support the students, whatever their background is.
Thanks. Ryan?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Huser. I'm a brand new hire here at CDH as assistant professor. I'll be teaching in the program, obviously. My background is in literary studies, but I do kind of generally computational approaches to the humanities. But just to echo what Jonathan just said, yeah, I don't think, every class I've tried to teach, I don't require, pre-existing programming experience. So that is the kind of stuff I get interested in, but it's not necessarily, certainly not a prerequisite for this, and it's not even necessarily what you will focus on in the studies if that's not the kind of digital humanities that interests you.
And finally, Hugo. And Hugo, then if you want to kick off with the presentation.
Yeah. Okay. We have already answered half of your questions regarding technical skills, right? So my name is Hugo Leal. I'm part of the English faculty where I help deliver and now convene the MPhil in Digital Humanities. I'm also a research associate at CRASH, the Minzru Center for Technology and Democracy, and a co-I at AI for Trust, which is an AI-based technologies for trustworthy solutions against disinformation. Last year, actually, I've said something that apparently really resonated with applicants who ended up joining the MPhil and even the PhD, which is that, disciplinarily speaking, I am all over the place. I have a background in social sciences, and my work lies at the, I would call it convergence, natural or forced, of sociology, political science, data science, and DH. So in terms of research interests and supervision interests, I'm looking for projects dealing with topics ranging from digital activism to online cultures and subcultures, political economy of the internet, limits and possibilities of tech, including AI, and non-legal aspects of online regulation. So that's that. We now go for a short presentation. I'll try to share my screen. Bear with me for a second or 10.
While you're doing that, Hugo, I can see that Leo's just joined us. So Leo, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Hi there, I'm Leo Impet, and I'm speaking from a very dodgy French university internet connection. So I apologize if I freeze at some point, but thank goodness for Jerome. I'm an assistant professor in Cambridge Digital Humanities. I really work on digital art history and more on questions of not just bias, but things that might include bias, of visual culture, let's say, of neural networks and artificial intelligence.
Thanks very much.
Okay, here we are. Can you see it? Yeah. So very, very briefly, I'm rushing through this presentation. It's going to be even faster than last year. Why? Because the focus of these info sessions is your questions, right? And you're here to answer your questions. So what is CDH? Actually, I was just saying earlier that's a very complicated, undefined object. It's a research center. It has a learning component and it has a teaching component as well. So we are scattered across the university. The focus of this presentation would be obviously the MPhil, which is run by CDH, hosted by the Faculty of English, but obviously, as you can see on our website, we have also connections with and to the university library, namely to the digital library, and to Crash, where part of our operations happens. What is CDH? What is DH? Another over-defined concept. And I don't find it problematic, actually, that this is over-defined or under-defined. It means that it crosses across, it cuts across a wide spectrum of disciplines, topics, themes. So it encompasses, as you can see there, work on cultural, social, epistemic impacts of digital technologies. And usually I say that it's both the study of digital transformation resorting to humanities theories and or computational methods, and the study of any topic that you can come up with from a digital methods perspective. So it's in the conjugation of all these spheres, both methodological and disciplinary, that DH emerges. Our MPhil here and our research environment here benefits a lot, obviously, from the fact that we are sitting in Cambridge. And Cambridge provides a wealth of resources. Part of them are inbuilt in our MPhil, and another part of them actually are part and parcel of the academic culture of Cambridge, right? As an example, I've got here our CDH, now renamed CDH Open Research seminars. And these are some of the names we've got in the last 2 years, from Rupika Rizam to Louisa Moore, operator Matteo Pasquinelli, and a series of other scholars that come here and converse with us and form this, or help form and inform this great growing community of DH. And as I said, there's, of course, wider resources across the university, from departmental and faculty seminars, Cambridge talks, college events, CDH events. So we have in bold there, make use of the Cambridge ecosystem, because it's very rich, but it's not always connected. So it's up to us to establish some bridges and make some of these connections as well. Very fast as well, the MPhil in digital humanities, the program first. This is very important, and both Jonathan and Ryan already alluded to this. It's not a coding course. Now, it does not mean that we do not code or that you won't code, but the course in itself, it's not about coding and does not demand that you code. So even in terms of the methodological approach, we again cut across a series of methods that can include, but do not necessarily include coding. Furthermore, you decide the topics. There's a lot of flexibility. We do have a core program and some options, some modules that you select in Lens, but the topics of your essays, the modules you'll be selecting, obviously your research project, these are all individual decisions that it's up to you, and then it's up to you and your supervisor to carve out your space within the MPhil and then within digital humanities. And this means, of course, and it implies that we have diverse disciplinary backgrounds, both at the faculty level and then at the cohort level. Also implies that you could follow a more technical path in computational humanities or social sciences, or you could stay away entirely from computational methodological approaches and focus on critiques of technology coming, for example, from cultural theory. This is a research-led exercise. So as we have that in both the content and the style of teaching. So this is very important to understand that the most important component of this course is the final output, your dissertation, right? And your dissertation is a mini research project that you will develop throughout the year. So research is really the focus here. In terms of applicant background, I already mentioned this. Digital humanities is interdisciplinary. I would go so far as saying that it is transdisciplinary. So we consider candidates from any academic undergraduate degree. So you could be a historian, come from literature, from art history, from computer science, from social sciences. That is not what we look at, okay? We look at fit with digital humanities, but this definition is not strict, right? We can address some of the questions you might have in that regarding the Q&A, but digital humanities is an all-encompassing tent rather than in a big tent rather than a silo. So, and the degree, of course, involves working with a range of materials. We have some resources from you. I really invite you to visit our website. We have a resources section, and can have an idea about the types of materials that if you are in the archives, interested in working with archives in collections, for example, you can explore. As for requirements, we write there that you must have a good 2.1 honors degree. This is not always the case. As a rule of thumb, this is a threshold, but imagine you have a great project that really captures our attention. So there are ways of going around these minimum requirements. Of course, we can talk about the way we assess applications at a later stage as well during the Q&A, but academic track record matters. The project, I would say, from my perspective, matters even more. Where do people go? We are a recent course, so we do not have longitudinal numbers yet, but people can stay and some do stay in DH. Others return to their home disciplines, whatever those disciplines might be. Others go to policy, advocacy, NGOs, research on DHT themes, including AI policy, digital media, GLAM careers. This is a sought after kind of profile, and stay in Cambridge. So we can always, at the end of the MPhil, apply for the PhD in digital humanities. We are welcoming our first cohort, our first PhD cohort this year. And we'll have a session about the PhD afterwards. And the threshold for this is 70 plus. I have a series of resources here that you can actually check out on the website, but I'm just going through a couple of courses for you to have an idea how we structure our academic offer. So we have two core courses. Core one is general methodologies, and core two, what we call critical technical practice. It tries to deconstruct the machine, both from the theoretical and practical perspective. I hope I'm not butchering Leo's core course. Then we have a series of options, and this gives you an idea of how interdisciplinary our course is, right? You have options that range from digital forms to digital visual cultures, media art, global digital humanities, distant reading, materialities of the digital, it's pretty much political economy of the internet infrastructure, emancipatory digital practices. So there's something for many, many people. This you can all check out on the website. You have also some example of dissertation titles. And again, this gives you an idea of how diverse the cohort, the topics, the research interests are. So you have examples there that go from computational analysis of Tango sheet music to digital repatriation, decolonization, meme proliferation and the internet, etc., etc., etc. And I'll leave you with some resources that can also check on the website in case you have some ideas about projects, but you are not entirely sure about which collection to use. For example, you have a series of resources that you could apply to your research. This is more relevant for PhD applicants, but Gates scholarships are open to MPhils as well, and the deadline is the same. It is approaching, is the 16th of October. So do check our postgraduate funding website as well. This is all available online. I won't steal time from you. So do drop us a line. We have general inquiries, MPhil, PhD, and our very best, brilliant postgraduate admin, Victoria, who is on the call, to answer your queries. So thank you, and let's jump immediately to the Q&A.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Hugo. And thank you to everyone who started putting questions in already. Just to say that some of them are being answered in written form. So do check. I think the answered questions are then fed back so you can see what other people have been asking. And thanks to Victoria and Karen who started answering some of those. I can see that there's a question about whether Python is recommended or taught in the program, which Jonathan would like to come in on. And I wonder if, Jonathan, maybe you could talk while you're doing that a little bit about the portfolio option that we have in the dissertation, because there's a question about a portfolio approach. Maybe you could just explain what we mean when we talk about a portfolio and how that relates to actually practical, the applied skills, if you like, in the dissertation. So if you could do those two, and then I'll pick out another couple of questions in a minute.
Sure, thanks, Anne. So I think there are three parts to the question about Python. Firstly, is it recommended? Well, it's the most common language in DH, but we don't recommend it per se. If you use a different language, that's completely fine. Quite a lot of people in DH use R, but if you wanted to use another language that you know, that's absolutely fine. There are some applications in DH where Python is really the only choice, but if you can do what you need to do to answer your research question with another language or with no language, that's totally acceptable. In terms of whether we teach it, not formally, and there's certainly no test. We would never be testing your Python knowledge at any point in the course. That's not what we're doing, as Hugo said. But bits of Python do come up in people's examples and maybe other languages as well. So you would see some Python in the course. Certainly, I know Hugh in his core course shows lots of bits of Python in terms of the practicalities of what you can do with that bit of Python, but you're not studying the code. And equally, we don't mark the code. So if you use Python for your dissertation, that's great, but you can write a brilliant piece of Python, but that won't actually get you marks. What we care about is how well we think you've answered a research question using Python to get to your answer. So it's not a computer science qualification in any way. Python can help you answer your research question, but it's not what we're marking. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in on that before I go on to the bit about the portfolio. So we have two options for the dissertation. There's a dissertation which is 12,000 words, or if yours is more portfolio project based, you can choose the portfolio, which is an 8,000 word piece of writing with a 4,000 word kind of sort of like a lab notebook explaining what you did, having your methodology in that section. You can choose to do that, but even if you're doing a practical piece of work for your dissertation, you don't have to, and some students don't choose to do the portfolio. You can actually do the dissertation and write the 12,000 words and explain your methodology within the traditional 12,000 word dissertation format. Is that okay, Anne, or do you want to say anything else on that?
Yeah, I just thought it would be useful to mention. I don't know if Hugo, do you want to come in and say anything on the kind of what's the difference between a portfolio approach and the standard kind of format of a dissertation? Is there anything you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, well, we included this option in the MPhil precisely because people come from different backgrounds, right? You can have straightforward people coming from literature or history or I don't know, other areas. And you will be writing probably a dissertation. That's a whole monograph, 80,000 words. No, sorry, this is 12,000 words, MPhil. Other people, imagine you have some kind of background in media arts, or you are more technically inclined and you have a project that is integrated into your dissertation project. It's part of that. It's part and parcel of that dissertation. Then we would be inclined to steer you towards a portfolio. A portfolio has a component of dissertation that would be the 8,000 words, and then another part that is linked to that of the project development, right? So it depends very much on where you come from and where you want to go to with your project. If you want to come out with a straightforward dissertation, then you choose a dissertation. If again there is a technical, artistic, performance component of your project, you're welcome, and the portfolio would be the right choice for you.
Thanks very much. Did you want to say any more actually on the question of reviewing applications of individuals who've been in the workplace for several years and how to compare them with people who are coming straight from an undergraduate background? Because that was something you indicated you wanted to speak on.
Yeah, so the admissions procedure is fairly complex. Fortunately, we do have a fair amount of applicants, a huge amount of applicants, I should say. And it's basically divided in two big components. One is academic record and references, and the other is project and writing. So if you are, imagine you are a mid-career professional who has been out of academia for 10 years. It has happened before. We had people joining exactly with that profile. So you will have your academic record. On top of that, actually, you will have professional experience that it can add to your application. So rather than being a negative aspect, I think it's a very positive one. So if you want to go back to academia, this MPhil would be a good entry or re-entry point, actually.
Brilliant, thank you. So let me just to pick up. There were a couple of other questions that people had indicated. So Ryan, did you want to come back on there's a question asking about whether you're studying fandoms. Would that be suitable for the content of the MPhil, or better suited to a sociology approach?
Well, the short answer is yes, it's absolutely suited to the program. I mean, it's a little bit maybe simplifying of a complex field like digital humanities, but I kind of like this formulation. Not what's simple is what I'm about to say, not the fandom study. That, you know, digital humanities both allows you to study digital forms and our digital culture, as well as using digital tools to study other forms of culture, you know, history, sociological phenomena. We have Hugo comes from a social science background. Several people come from social science backgrounds. So just to say that's absolutely part and parcel of the digital humanities. There's great projects I know from someone named Melanie Walsh, who's looked at social media, discussions of James Baldwin. So those types of projects are absolutely central to DH.
Brilliant, thank you. So there's a question about if you're from a humanities background, perhaps feeling a bit intimidated by the technical parts of the MPhil course, how tailored for non-science students is the work? So Jonathan, would you like to respond on that?
Yeah, I'd like to, because I meet the students one-to-one at the beginning of the MPhil, and some of them do say to me exactly that they're from an English, literature, history, that kind of background. They don't feel that they have the technical knowledge. And I reassure them that that's completely fine. And then I see them through the course kind of relax and realize it is absolutely fine. They had no need to be intimidated. We have students from those backgrounds who write fantastic essays and dissertations and do really, really well on the course. So I would say, in terms of the part about how tailored for non-science students is the coursework, nearly all of our students don't come from a hard science background. We have some with computer science, but not that many. It's not the majority by any means. And so you don't need any science knowledge to do this MPhil.
Brilliant, thank you. There's a question about the kind of broad areas of research that Cambridge Digital CDH supports. I wondered if, Leo, would you like to perhaps say something about that and give us the big picture of the areas that we're looking for people to apply from and what we do?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, and it's always a difficult field to define, isn't it? We're constantly arguing about what is DH. I mean, in a sense, probably the only central thing that everyone agrees is the foundation of DH is worrying about what we're meant to be doing. I think there was almost a decision when they were building CDH up as to whether to become specialists in one kind of digital humanities type of thing, or whether to do a bit of everything. And I think what we've got is a real mix that tries to span the range of the sorts of things that people tend to talk about. So we do have people working in, let's say, library focused projects, and we look forward to receiving MPhil applications that speak to digitized collections and things like that. We also have people working in what is almost sort of media theory, media archaeology. It's just brushing on the borders of history of science. We also have people working on computational literary studies, on conceptual history, intellectual history. We have people working, well, Ryan, I mean, I'm implicitly pointing here, people working, as Hugo is, on contemporary social media data. So 9 times out of 10, when I've got an email from a prospective MPhil student and they say, I'm not sure whether this project is DH, 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. And the 1 time out of 10, the answer is no. It tends to be things to do with digital learning. So I guess the thing that sometimes people think we do, but we don't really, is, for instance, quantitative social science evaluation of whether people learn better online or on video, that kind of thing, which is done in Cambridge in the Faculty of Education. We don't tend to do it. Other sorts of things, some are very artistic, some very historical, some are very, very technical. We've had a couple of applicants, well, we had many applicants who've got, a little bit of a technical interest. We've even had a couple of applicants, very successful applicants who've come from technical first degrees, and then they're doing very, very different sorts of projects to, people who have got a first degree in literature or art history or musicology or whatever. So that's a complete non-answer in 3 minutes, but there you go. It tends to be that that projects almost always are closer to DH than what you might think. I guess if you're trying to think about the fit of the cohort and the fit of the program, whether the program is right for your project, then I'd look at the resources that are around in Cambridge. I'd look at the, you can work with collections and research projects that are not just CDH. So there might be a really interesting pottery reconstruction project in classics.
Okay, I think we may have, we'll move on to the next question. Hopefully Leo will rejoin us in a second. So sorry, Leo, you froze for everyone. I have a question. There's a couple of questions which I'd like to start answering, but I'm going to pass over perhaps to Hugo to comment on this. Is that there's a question earlier about behavioral psychological approaches and lab work, which I think that's one of the examples of an area, for example, perhaps from a behavioral or psychological approaches to human-computer interaction, which actually is not what we do. And although we might work, with people who perhaps come from that tradition, it's not something that we'd be very well set up, that kind of lab. But there's another question that says, my proposal involves students taking a test in a partner test using AI. Can a lab be set up to do this? In other words, can I do an experimental approach that involves interacting with human subjects? And I think the answer to that would be yes, provided it would be fit within, the kind of frameworks of the expertise that we've got. And we would be also supporting projects like that too, because they would need to get ethical approval. We would have a route through to help you set up and to do your project in an ethical way. And there are several people among our team who, would be interested and able to work in that way. So in that sense, can you propose things that involve live experimental work? Yes, that's something definite that we would be interested in. I mean, maybe Hugo, do you want to say a little bit more about the kind of ethical questions and the ethics of doing research from a more social sciences perspective, because that's also something I think that's quite important to make people aware. It's a distinctive thing about our program is that we bring people from both social sciences and humanities backgrounds, and it's a unique thing that you'll get. And actually, just sorry to answer briefly that question about, is this like the sociology of the internet course that you might do at OII? In a sense, there is an overlap. We do some stuff that's quite similar, but we also do it in an integrated way as part of a centre that also includes humanists. So it's if you're just interested in doing sociology of the internet within staying within the social sciences, we would encourage you to think about us and potentially to apply, because you might actually find that would really work for you. But you should be aware that we also trying to broaden your horizons as well, and that you will have to engage a bit with people coming from humanities methods. And we hope that would enrich how you think about these things. Anyway, let me hand over to Hugo though on the ethics and.
I don't have much to add, except for the fact that we deal carefully with these issues, and the words human subjects are important within the context of an ethics approach to digital humanities and research overall. So we have an ethics procedure in place this year, and in connection with your supervisor, we'll be helping you to address the ethical component of your project. And of course, it can go from collecting data online to human experiments. And you have different levels of ethics reviews depending on what you are proposing and what you want to do during your time here at Cambridge. So as an example, again, if you are collecting data online, probably you will have a light touch approach to ethics. If you are proposing to do something like experimenting with subjects, then we need a more elaborate ethics review, but there's nothing that prevents you from doing that research with us.
Thanks. And actually, Hugo, do you want to answer the question about writing skills if you are coming from a computer science background? Because I can see that's something you're interested in addressing.
Yeah. So we have a spectrum here as well. You have two kinds of people at both ends of this spectrum. You have humanities people intimidated or potentially intimidated by the technical side of the course. And on the other side, we have technologists a bit intimidated by the writing component of the course. From my perspective and in our experience, I think you should discard these worries, right? Just be sure and be assured by us here on this call that this won't be a problem for two reasons. Part of those were addressed beforehand. You can come with zero experience and methods and still go through the course and thrive. Your writing skills will be assessed as part of the admissions process. Plus, we have set up a series of sessions. We call it research skills sessions that go through academic writing, basic research design, also cover ethics. So we are creating a program that supports you as well as soon as you land in Cambridge. So don't be afraid. So be adventurous. Do write your research proposal and apply. Then it's up to us to assess and help you once you are admitted.
Thanks. I'm aware that there's quite a lot of questions still. So I just wanted to say that we'll do our best to save the questions, and we will be using any that we don't manage to answer directly. Feel free to email us afterwards if you because we would be happy to answer questions by email. And also we will be updating the FAQ sections of the website, and we'll try and address as many of them as we can. Ryan, did you want to come in perhaps and speak briefly about whether you miss out if you use no coding sort of approach?
I actually meant to answer that by typing, but I clicked on the wrong button. I think Jonathan has covered that, but I would say no. I mean, I don't even think the majority of people in the digital humanities would think of themselves as coders or programmers. I think DH is more centered, even, people who use digital technologies to study film, art, literature, etc. A lot of those tools don't require programming to use. And then, DH is even broader than the usage of tools. So I wouldn't think of yourself as missing out at all. And then, as Jonathan mentioned, I don't know whoever asked this was there at the beginning. Jonathan's a research software engineer, happy to help people who would like to use some code in their projects. And then Anne also runs certain workshops where you can learn some coding. So there are resources around if that's a direction you want to pursue, but I wouldn't feel as if you're somehow excluding yourself if that's not your background or not your interest.
Thanks. So there's a couple of questions that I'd like to pick up on. One is about whether there are opportunities during the MPhil to have a placement with the DH project or organisation. So we don't have a formal sort of system for placing people with projects, but if you come and join the MPhil, you're part of our community. And so there are opportunities to interact with local projects and to potentially gain experience in that way. And we'd encourage you to make the best of being part of that community. I mean, one of the ways in which you'll find out what's going on is when we have our research seminars, we have also to interact with projects that are going on around the university. There's a very wide range of DH activity taking place. There's also another question about whether prior work experience makes the application more competitive. I think that we would definitely look really positively at signs that you've tried to gain some experience in digital humanities type research, or that you've worked in this way before. We wouldn't require it because we understand that sometimes that experience is hard to come by. But it definitely is something that we would look at really positively. And I do think it's worth saying that one of the things that certainly I look for in terms of if I'm assessing applications is the person who's applying actually convincing me that they want to come and study with us, that they've looked at digital humanities and they've thought there's something about that program that really appeals to me. Obviously, digital humanities is a fairly new disciplinary area, and people have different opinions about what it is and what it represents. But it's the more that you can show that you feel that you would have a home because we're asking the kinds of questions you want answered, and you're have a broad approach to thinking about the relationship between the digital and the human, the critical at both ends of this. The better from our point of view. And we would really encourage you to think about that when writing your applications. I'm just going to go through and see if there were other. Oh yeah, there was one other question I also wanted to mention, which asked actually about the research in the hopes, pursuing research in the hopes of leading on to a career in research stroke policy with computational elements. I would say yes, that's something that you could definitely follow up from doing our MPhil program. And in fact, again, there is a set of people who teach on the program who come from different backgrounds. You know, for example, Matt Mahmoudi, who's just joining our team, was previously working at Amnesty, and is now joining our team to teach at CDH. And so there is actually quite a network of researchers who work at the intersection, if you like, between, for example, NGOs, policy organizations, research environments, and shift between them, and carry out work on kind of critical understandings of infrastructure, digital infrastructure, for example, or look at human rights implications of the work of technology. So one of the research centres where we collaborate quite often with colleagues within Cambridge ecosystem is the Centre of Governance and Human Rights, which has a kind of technology and human rights focused research. There are other research institutions around the university that do that kind of work, and there are plenty of opportunities to make networks in that area and to turn that towards that direction in terms of your intended career outcomes. So definitely that's something that you can do. Are there any, I'm just going to throw this to the panel because we need to finish in the next few minutes, but are there any questions that any of the panelists feel they would like to answer very briefly as our last one before we finish, that we haven't managed to go through? Hugo, can I just pick on you? Would you like to say something about how specific does the research proposal need to be? Because I think giving people a bit of an idea about framing the research proposal part of the application could be a useful thing to finish with.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I've been busy trying to answer people's questions online. So the research proposal does need a degree of specificity, but it does not need to be fully developed. What do I want to say with this? If you are coming to a PhD, if you were coming for a PhD, for example, we really look at potential going forward, because you will be here for 3 to 4 years. At the MPhil, we cannot afford that luxury. You'll be here for 9 months, right? So we do need to see the seed of something there. Having said that, it's up to us and your supervisor to help develop that research proposal. So look for guides online on how to frame a research proposal, and then write your research proposal having in mind that, as we said earlier, the fit is broad, and you can always perfect it while in Cambridge already. Okay, so do not stress about the fact that you do not have a fully developed research proposal that's ready to be turned into an actual dissertation, because part of the coursework here and part of the MPhil is geared towards that, right? To help you develop and then write your dissertation.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So I'm afraid we're going to have to finish it there because we're running another session at 4 o'clock. And I just wanted to thank everyone very much for coming. Like I said, we will do our best to go through any unanswered questions and try and incorporate them somehow afterwards. And we will also try and post at least an edited version of the recording afterwards and make as much information available as possible. So again, thank you very much to everyone for taking part, and we look forward to seeing your applications. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Cheers. Do apply.